Reddit users, please share your stories about what scientific fact scares the absolute shit out of you. What are some things you feel ashamed of now? Scientific literature's conclusion on Alzheimer's disease and other neurodegenerative diseases, in general, is that the diseases start decades before the first obvious symptoms and that we need to treat them at this stage. When you exhibit obvious symptoms, it's too late, your brain is already mush. If you get diagnosed with Alzheimer's at 65, you had the disease since your early 40s at least. And you experienced very mild symptoms but didn't notice them. And your brain fought like hell to compensate for the deficit. When you get diagnosed, your brain is already very severely damaged and will never recover from the deficit. The fact that your body can have advancing cancer and you wouldn't know it sometimes. Father-in-law's brother was walking through his kitchen and he fainted and hit his head on the counter. He was rushed to the hospital and they ran tests and he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer and his body was already in the endgame. He was dead within 2 months of diagnosis. That shit terrifies me and it can happen to anyone. Space just in general. Or that bit about the Higgs field not being in true equilibrium and that returning to it would break everything as we know it. When the atom bomb was being created, the leading scientists associated with the project at the time had to calculate the flammability of the Earth's atmosphere in order to ensure that detonating the bomb would not cause the atmosphere to combust. At the time when the first atom bomb was detonated, these scientists still had not answered this question, meaning that we legitimately just crossed our fingers and hoped we wouldn't set the fucking planet on fire. Humans are stupid. Edit, it turns out that this is slightly wrong. The calculations were finalized before the bomb was detonated, but the reporter who covered the event was not aware of this and had overheard a joke made by one of the scientists to place bets on whether the world burns, or something to that effect. The reporter ended up with false information that it was possible for the atmosphere to combust, which was later claimed in an article. Thanks to all the people who let me know of this issue with my post. The fact that we can just get a blood clot and die and not realize anything was up. The human body has so many ways of just suddenly dying and it's terrifying. My family had a friend of a family friend who punched a guy outside of a bar in our city and knocked him backwards. Hit his head on the ground and died on the spot. The guy he punched had wealthy parents and he got sued into oblivion on top of a 15-year sentence. His life is effectively over. My point is, a mild bonk on the head can kill you instantly. Be the bigger man. Unless it's self-defense, walk away. Don't risk your life or your career over words because while the body can recover from some remarkable injuries, the littlest things can kill you like that. The metaphysical aspect of consciousness. Where is consciousness? What is it? When does it really end? Where does it go when we die? When do we sleep? How does it occupy our entire being without being physically present? We are quite literally the universe experiencing itself, in a fragile little bubble on a mote of dust in a sunbeam. I don't fear death, I don't fear world annihilation, but I am deeply unsettled by the mere experience of being aware. Being aware, witnessing things. What blows my mind is thinking about the eons of time that have passed in space with planets and stars forming and dying, things exploding, black holes doing black hole stuff, and nobody was there to see it. Kind of like the old "if I'm not looking at something, does it still exist?" But only yeah, that stuff does exist and shit's happening out there for nobody. CO2 has a measurable and significant negative effect on cognitive ability, and we just keep on raising the concentration of it in the atmosphere. Every time you use an antibiotic, even for something mild like strep throat or bronchitis or traveler's diarrhea, you technically could get C. difficile infection from your wiped out gut flora. And that could end up a lingering, resistant infection that leads to colectomy or fecal transplant. Antibiotics are scary. And there's a reason doctors only want to prescribe them if absolutely needed. Edit, I'm sorry I wasn't able to respond to everyone, this comment got a lot bigger than expected. Maybe not too scientific per se, but the fact that I could get hit by a car walking home from work and wake up in the hospital. go on with my life, meet the love of my life and get married. Have kids, and watch them grow into their teens, and we all have a good life. Then one day I wake up in the hospital and find out I was in a coma and none of that was real. That I always end up on these fucking posts when I'm about to sleep, truly a scientific fact. You can get non-buoyant water. I copied this comment from a post a while back and it freaks me out. In wastewater treatment plants, they aerate the water so the bacteria breaking down the poo has plenty of oxygen. Due to the introduced air, the water density is low enough that a human body, or most in any object that would normally float, will go straight to the bottom. That is scary. Note to self, no swimming in wastewater treatment plants. More oxygen in water equals no oxygen for you. The Carrington event was a massive solar flare that hit the Earth in 1859. It took out all communications and damaged almost every electrically run piece of equipment. It almost happened again in 2012, but it missed the Earth by about 5 days. Scientists estimate that if one hits us again, it would cost the United States about $3 trillion to get everything back to normal. More than 80% of the ocean is unexplored. The Marianas Trench is so deep that you could fit Mount Everest in it. Even if you stand at the summit, there would still be about a mile of ocean above your head. Your eyes have their own immune system, and if your brain ever figures that out, then it will eat away at them, turning you blind. The Pacific Northwest has a 600-mile-long subduction zone that is approximately 70 years overdue for an 8.8 to 9.2 magnitude earthquake, and nothing on that coast is built to withstand that. There has never been a strong earthquake on that coastline since European contact, because the last major earthquake happened in 1700. Unlike Japan, which had a comparable earthquake in 2011, the PNW isn't ready for it and things aren't built to withstand what's coming. Someday soon, Seattle, Vancouver, Portland, and Victoria are all going to lurch 6 feet inland, shake violently for 5 to 7 minutes, and then get hit with a 100-foot-tall tsunami. It is projected to kill tens of thousands, displace millions, and wipe out trillions of dollars of wealth, the second largest humanitarian disaster in North American history, second only to Haiti. And it seems like people are just pretending this doesn't exist. That viruses cannot classify as living organism and yet behave as if they are fully aware of their surroundings and evolved to suit it. They behave like they have a brain but are merely nucleic acids. Fascinated me since my first virology class. That one day I will die. I don't know why, but sometimes at night, as I'm falling asleep, I suddenly think of this and it freaks me out. Like, start feeling super anxiety. When we look up at the stars, we're not actually looking up into the heavens, but starting down in the infinite abyss that the invisible force of gravity just happens to keep us from falling into. You are always 5 or so minutes away from death. And every time you take a breath, you reset that clock. There is a form of insomnia that forces your body to never be able to sleep, and has a 100% fatality rate. That I could be the only conscious being and everyone else my imagination, and I would never know. Our white blood cells are fighting cancer cells on the daily. After looking through lots of comments, turns out that I can die from about 1 million things any second. Yay! Friends, thank you for watching. Please share your stories below in the comments and see you on the next videos. Have a good day.